Hey, good evening, everybody. Chris Pate here, along with Steve Rodriguez, your Bayshore Alumni Central. Tonight's topic is going to be the top 10 games of all time for Bayshore Christian. This should be interesting, possibly a little controversy. I want to go ahead and throw a shout out there to our 2020-2021 team this year. Came in with a preseason win last night against Armwood. It was about 75-58, starting the season off on the right foot. Anyway, that's all I got. Steve, how's it going, man?
It's going all right. It's another week. Here we are, another week later. First off, I want to ask, you've got a jacket on. Tell me what that jacket is.
This jacket is the coaches and team jacket from 2001-2002. One of the teams I was the assistant coach of with Coach Dean Kagi. And kind of like this jacket. It's kind of timeless. Fits in well with today's athletic wear, I think. What do you got on? And how'd you get it on?
That's exactly right. I wouldn't necessarily describe it as on. I would describe it as poured into, stretched on. I'm taking it off in a moment, but this is the original 1985-86. Our Letterman's jacket from way back when. So I just wanted to wear it for the show. I know you've got baseball jerseys. We're going to have you wearing those baseball jerseys.
Yeah, we'll give it a try, man.
So yeah, I barely could get it on. Taking it off right now so we can get on with our show. Back to you while I try to pull this sucker off before it kills me.
Retro, baby, retro. Yeah. So we've got about 36, 37 years of basketball history to go over, beginning with the Valdez era, all the way up to including last year's season. We're going to try and count it down from 10 to 1 in terms of games, in terms of what their importance was to the season, what their importance was to the program as a whole. Was it a turning point for the season? Was it a turning point in the program's history? A lot of the different criteria goes into this. What did you take into account, Steve, when you were making your list?
Well, all the things you just said, the magnitude of the game, and a lot of this we've probably already covered, like in the top 10 teams, and we've covered a lot of ground already, perhaps. And it's sort of the same thing that we talked about there with the criteria. It's everybody thinks their team was the greatest. You remember your high school years, your girlfriend you were dating, all the time you spent on the red top, the lunch, you remember it all. So you think it's the greatest. But we were there, like we knew about Bayshore in 1982. We were there in the 1980s. We coached in the 1990s. You coached in the 2000s. And we've taken the time to do the research as best we can to make sure it's fair and unbiased. And so for me, it's all that you said: magnitude of game, who we were playing, what it meant to the season, all that sort of stuff. And so here we have our list, and we'll see what people think.
Yeah, very good. And I just want to point it out that, we did reach out to all the coaches that have been coaches over the years, got their input, carefully considered and weighed the input that they gave us. And this is our list that we came up with. Again, this is our list and it's our show. So if you have a list, hey, I would be more than happy for you to put that list on the Facebook page. We would love to read it, love to see what your list includes, some reasoning behind your list and so forth. So yeah, absolutely. Feel free, guys. This is interactive here. Get out there and put your list on the page as well. And we'd love to see it.
Yeah.
Having said that, go ahead, Steve.
I was going to say, especially right here on Facebook, we can see, like, if you remember a game. But man, we've been at this for 3.5 months. And and some of you guys are like over 40 years old. Your children have to have other things to do on a Thursday night. If you haven't gotten us video or something, it probably wasn't that important of a game. So right. our list comes from the data. We either saw it or we investigated it, and that's where we're at.
That's right. Investigative reporting right here, guys. So we're going to start off tonight. I think Steve's got some honorable mentions for us. It's kind of a collaborative effort as far as honorable mentions are concerned. Steve, why don't you run us down with your honorable mentions real quick?
Yeah, real quick. I mean, there's so many great games, right? It's obviously, that's an obvious statement. First thing I want to say is the Dean Kagi era 2001, 02 through 04, 05. Those guys had 2 or 3 20-plus win seasons. We're talking TJ Miller, Rodney Walton, Phillip Brooks, some other names. I think there's a Stenholm. There might have been
a big old Drew Stenholm. He's about 6'2", 250 pounds.
Right.
So more like a lineman than he was. I think he was a lineman than he was a basketball player.
Right, and you were there for a lot of that. So they beat Blake and Middleton. Those games did not make my list because by the 2000s, beating a public school is it has to be significant. And also, those were 2 brand new schools. I don't think they had seniors. I don't think they had a win yet. So it wasn't necessarily a challenging win. It didn't fit any of my criteria. But again, those guys had great years. I look at 06, 07, Dwayne Pippen had a huge victory. And I don't know who was on that team, maybe Carson Day, maybe somebody type it in Facebook and let us know. They beat Class 3A Berkeley Prep 65-64. So Pippen got it done that year. It was a very good season for the school. I think we beat Robinson in 2019-20 last year, but Robinson had a losing record, so they didn't make my cut. We beat King and Durant. Again, also both teams didn't have a winning record. A couple others I got, 87-88. Bloomingdale, 72-70. We've mentioned before. You were at that game. I mean, Blocker, Faedo, and Noriega knocked off Travis Shensis. 72-70 at the buzzer. I think they had a free throw. They missed the second free throw on purpose and couldn't get the rebound, and we won.
Yeah.
And I'm almost done. We could have done a top 10 from 1982 to 1988 and had 30 games left over. So, I'm sorry.
That was a great team. You had Jimmy Carter on that team. That was a young JJ Garnett. I think even Peterson was a freshman that year. I think he even saw some varsity time. So, great team overall. And that was a great win against Travis Shensis, who was about 6'9", 6'10", younger brother of Dwayne Shensis, the University of Florida star.
That's exactly right. And the last one I'll say, last 2, your year is going to have a game on this list, but it isn't what you would think. You guys the 87 team beat Plant, Robinson, and Jefferson within a 10-day period, okay? Nothing comes close to that as far as I'm concerned. But some of us actually thought you should have won. So it didn't make my list. Last one I got for honorable mention. It is hard to not have him on the list because this was my favorite all-time hardcore big dog player, Todd Brandenburg. 96-97 with Damon Allen, Andrew Polito, Brandenburg, Hugh Thomas, Elijah,
Latanzi.
Adam Latanzi. They beat Keswick, which we always beat Keswick, don't get me wrong. But district title game, we're only up 4 with 3 minutes to go. Brandenburg got a breakaway dunk when Polito stole it. We ended up winning by 12 thanks to free throws.
Oh, yeah.
So lots of great games in Bayshore history that are just not going to make the cut. At any other high school, they would be building statues for our players for those games. And at Bayshore, it's just another night of victory. So
right, Steve, you mentioned that Todd Brandenburg dunk. Oh, my gosh. It just gave me goosebumps. And I could actually see it in my mind as it happened, 25 years ago or so.
That's right.
Todd Brandenburg, absolute animal.
We've been searching for that video. It just hadn't turned up. But, you're exactly right. So that's my honorable mentions. I'll let you take the lead. How should we do this?
All right. Well, as you know, Steve, I kind of cheated. I kind of smashed a couple of games together to create certain numbers on my list. I've only got 9 on my list, so I think you've got 10. So why don't we start off with your number 10?
Okay, very good. That's funny. Number 10, we're going back to before you and I even paid attention, probably. We're going to go back to 1980, 1981.
Wow.
Jim Brown, Joe Brown, Reggie Sanford, Steve Skeldon, Mike Fordham, Jeff Holt. This is pre-Empire. Bayshore did not have a winning record ever until Herman Valdez arrived. But you could see there was some talent down in South Tampa. Reggie Sanford on any other team, you'd have won 25 games.
Steve, do you remember that article in the paper that we pulled up that said, "What if Reggie Sanford had gone to Robinson?"
Right. Well, you said that they couldn't write that article today because it suggests recruiting.
Right, exactly.
So this game is, we just listed all the criteria, and everybody's going to be saying, "What are you talking about? It doesn't meet any of the criteria," but it does, because those guys never had what the rest of us had once the Empire started, and that was the winning and the success. They beat Lakeland Christian 48-47. Jim Brown, who's a Bayshore lifer, his brother Joe Brown, and a very famous Bayshore player. Who's the person in that family I'm going to name?
Well, the best player, the best athlete of the whole family is Mary Brown.
That's right, Mary Brown. So Jim Brown hits one of two technical free throws with under 10 seconds to secure an upset of Lakeland Christian. Now, Lakeland Christian today, does the school even exist? I don't know. Back then, they were a regular district power. They were often ranked. And if you remember from our top 10 teams, they had a team with Livingston Chapman, Garrett Williams. So they had a regular basketball program that always was a competitor in district. We were not the favorite. If Vegas had a betting line, we'd have been 10-point underdogs. And Reggie Sanford and Jim Brown pull off the huge 48-47 upset. And the reason that makes my top 10, that showed South Tampa has talent down there, and it was just waiting for the arrival of the emperor himself, Herman Valdez.
Very good.
Crucial moment, 80-81, 48-47 over Lakeland Christian.
Wow, I love it. The tradition begins, even before tradition begins.
Right.
All right, well, like I said, I don't have a top 10, but I do have a number 9. And my number 9 is a triumvirate of games. It's 1991-92 season. It's the win over Jesuit in double overtime. It's the win over Tampa Prep, and it's the win over Tampa Catholic, all in the same season. That Jesuit game, at the time, Jesuit was ranked number 8 in the state in 3A. Frazier had like 28 points. I think Derek Smith had about 20. That game was, like I said, double overtime game, but really wasn't nailed down until Derek Smith hit the front and back end of a 1-and-1 with about 12 seconds left in double overtime. After the game, Tom Dibble, famous Tom Dibble, our assistant coach, our head coach, he says, overall, speaking of Andrew Frazier, is the most composed sophomore I've ever seen. Derek can do anything. He plays the post, breaks the press, shoots outside, and even serves the popcorn. They can both do it all. Both are very nice young men also who will be very valuable to some Division I college program down the road.
Where did he, was that in like the Tribune the next day?
Yeah, it was the Tampa Tribune the very next day.
Derek serves the popcorn. That's really good.
Oh, man, thought that was great. But I may have ad-libbed a little bit of that one. Like we say, sometimes there's some half-truths and some lies in this thing, but it was close enough to the same sentiment. You know what I mean?
Right.
Of course, and they went on then. So they won the first game against Jesuit. They went on to beat Tampa Prep 64-46. Really wasn't a close game. Smith had like 17. I think Andrew and Bobby Holland each had 16. Big game for Bobby Holland in a big time, scenario. Because he was one of those guys in whose role played very well. Very good, solid player, but actually stepped it up in a very important game. And then lastly was the Tampa Catholic game, which we won, like I said, 79-67. After that one, Herman actually said this. He said, "We've got a saying around here, boys in class wins games." And I thought that was so appropriate because we had Mr. Derek Smith on the show last week, and that's exactly what he said. I remember that line, boys in class.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Steve, what do you remember about
What's that?
What do you remember about those games?
Well, I got one of them coming up on my list, so I want to save some of that. But I remember,
cool.
You remember, as you describe it, I remember those wins just from reading about them. I don't think I got to attend any of them. You sharing that Dibble line, I mean, that's just classic Dibble. You just can't beat that. And, I think that that era, which we talked with Derek last week, was really special, like all of them are. I mean, what we find is it just keeps going. And, that's what I'm going to share with my number 9 when we get to it, is how it does keep going. So I remember those games. I mean, those were great times for the kids and certainly for the school.
And very interesting too, also to note. I mean, so that was the mythical, Tampa Bay championship, essentially. Top teams in 2A, 3A, us being the 1A team out of all of them. One thing that was also funny about the Tampa Catholic game, and stop me if that's the game that you're going to mention later.
It is.
Okay, I'll leave it there. We'll come back to that.
No, I've stolen so many of yours. Go ahead.
No. I'm sure it's a story you've already got ready to tell, and I'm ready to wait for it.
All
so
right.
that's my number 9, 1991-92 season, Jesuit, Tampa Prep, and Tampa Catholic, and Bayshore is the City of Champions champion.
That's really good. Excellent job. My number 9 goes to a modern game. So I went 80-81, the launch of the Ronald Reagan era and the end of the Jimmy Carter era. And now I go back to the 2000s and President Obama gets elected. This is 2008. And this is the Pippen era's defining moment. Bayshore Christian 56, Seffner Christian 53 in the district championship game. We had not won district in 6 or 7 years. Dwayne Pippen did a great job of keeping the program going. So post Dibble, you had the Dean Kagi teams we talked about in honorable mention, and they did a good job. They did have, though, a losing record, which was the first time in 10 years. Pippen comes along and gets us back winning, and not only does it, he very quickly gets us a district title. That game, if I'm looking at it real quick, we had Carson Day, we had Fred Lewis. Those two guys really were the main scorers in that game. We were down 8 going into the fourth quarter. Fred Lewis makes some plays, but Carson Day makes and Carson, if you're watching, please, let us know the truth here on Facebook. But what Dwayne told me and what I saw in the newspaper, Carson Day hits 2 or 3 threes late. Like we're down 5 according to the newspaper with under 1 minute, and he saves us. That's just a classic moment that I'm sure he'll remember, and certainly the school will. So Dwayne Pippen era returns the district title home with a stunning last-minute come-from-behind victory over Seffner Christian. I can't call them a rival. They obviously, nobody's really our rival. I mean, Tampa Catholic and Jesuit might be, but not Seffner Christian. But it was an important win, so that's my number 9.
Wow, yeah, great one, yeah. Don did a really good job for the 4 years he was there. About 4 years, right?
Yeah, I got 3 years, but 3 or 4, whatever it is. You once called him Don.
What's that?
You called him Don.
All right, Dwayne, Don.
Dwayne was your manager when you played. Did y'all call him Don then?
No, did not call him Don.
There you go.
Oh, man.
Unless, Dwayne, if you're watching and you can submit to me evidence and proof of a legal name change in Hillsborough County, I will start changing it to Don.
Oh, man. Anyway, very good. Well, for my number 8, I'm going to jump right into the most recent history of histories, and that is the 2019-2020 win over First Baptist, 50-48. The boys bring it home, make it to the Final Four. They're led by guys like C.J. Cruz, who'll be watching this year, Deion Brown, a returner again this year, senior David Fitzgerald, that graduated, Jeremiah Wicks, who was a 4-year starter at Bayshore, Andre Benalcazar, he's also got a lot of time last year, is on this year's squad. But yeah, just a great win. I mean, we hadn't been to the Final Four in a very, very long time. The guys got it done on the road in a hostile environment. We talked to Coach Day. He described a little bit of what that environment was like. And it sounded like it was very ruckus, and we begrudgingly did have a little bit of respect for their fans.
Right.
Minus a little bit of those 80s fans, right, Steve?
That's exactly right. Very good. That's right.
Yeah. So that's my number 8, the 2019-2020 win over First Baptist in the, I guess, super regionals, what do they call it now, to go to the Final Four.
Right. What's funny is I have the same one, so sort of talk about the same game and
at the same spot.
So that's a great number 8. We agree. My number 8 is also First Baptist. I think it's First Baptist Naples, although Coach said the game was in Fort Myers. We've watched this game. We saw it on YouTube. I've seen it several times.
Yeah.
And some of that video action is really just, well, first off, let's talk about this year's team again, because what I saw you post on Instagram, is the greatest Bayshore team I've ever seen in my entire life. And they better win the state title or somebody's going to have to pay. Because
time will tell.
I ain't never seen anything like that wearing a Bayshore uniform. But
where did Christian Rollout get those ups, man? That's what I want to know.
Yes. I mean, those throwdowns, those dunks were menacing. Like I hide the women and children. But back to that team last year. What a fantastic run. That specific game is a top 10 greatest games in Bayshore history. That has to count because, well, look, Tree White is on Facebook saying the greatest with a question mark. Tree, yes. Tree, give me your top 10, buddy.
And this is number 8 now. This is not number 1.
Yeah. This is number 8. You have to win the game to go to the Final Four. The opponent is ranked in the top 10. I don't know that we were. The opponent is bigger at every post position.
Yeah.
The opponent playing at home has a crowd that rivals our crowd from the 80s and 90s. So all of that mixed together, as Coach Day mentioned, into a very hostile, as you said, difficult environment. We were behind, had to come from behind on the road in the fourth quarter to win the game against an opponent that would have been favored if they ran betting lines on high school games. Listen, if it's a Wednesday night against Seminole Presbyterian, no. If it's the regional final to go to the Final Four and they're ranked and bigger on the road, yes. What a great win. That is number 8 on the list, and I don't think it's really that big of an argument.
No, not at all. I don't think it's an argument at all. I think it's a great win. And, again, it just kind of catapults us and propels us into this season, which is going to be freaking awesome, baby.
Oh, yeah. And I'm very glad Tree is with us. Tree is, boy, I love me some Tree. And every time I see his name, I think about 2 things. 1, we'd have won the state title in 1995. And 2, when are you enrolling your son? That's all.
Exactly. Get him there now. Start him young, son.
That's my number 8.
Yeah, and mine as well. So I went off last time. Why don't you go ahead and start us out with number 7 this time?
Number 7. This is a really good one. It's probably on your list. Tree says, I hope they win one for Bayshore. That's exactly right, brother.
Amen.
Number 7 for me. It's a package deal for you, and rightfully so. 1990-91, so it's December 1990 trip down to Fort Lauderdale. We've talked about it before with Brian Peterson when he was on the show. Back-to-back nights against teams ranked in the top 5. My number 7, number 5 ranked Bayshore 74, number 2 ranked Fort Lauderdale Westminster with future NFL and Florida State quarterback Danny Cannell 72 in overtime.
Right on.
Peterson gets 31 points. The night before we had beaten Broward, which was also ranked. It's hard to, why is it number 7? That's how many great games Bayshore has, because to go on the road and face a huge Christian school. Bayshore, even in the 90s, even when it had more students, was still not the biggest Christian school or private school. Fort Lauderdale Westminster was monstrous, and they had Division I and future professional athletes everywhere. And our little team with Dalvin and Beckman and Peterson and Major Bloom went down and taught them a lesson. And teaching people a lesson in their gym brings me great joy. Number 7, I'd like to hear your thoughts as well. Peterson in overtime, 74. Fort Lauderdale Westminster ranked number 2, 72 at Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? I'm going to reserve my thoughts for just a moment because it's coming up really quick in my list. So let me throw my 7 out there. I'm not sure if this one's on your list or not. It's an oldie but a goodie. It was a year where while we didn't win the districts and we didn't go very far in terms of playoffs, Herman said this is one of his grittiest, toughest teams ever. They didn't have a guy over 6'2" on the team probably, but he had gritted out every night. and that was the 1985-86 team against Central Florida Academy. And I have that as a dual game because I have both Central Florida Academy games on there, because Central Florida Academy only had, I think, 4 losses the entire season and 2 of them to Bayshore.
Very good.
But yeah, so in that first one, it was a 55-53 win, I believe. I mean, certainly you could probably tell us more about it than I can because you were in it. The paper said that Chris Pate hit some free throws with about 13 seconds left to seal the deal. We were down by 8 going into the fourth quarter, and Pate ended up with 15 points, and Tomasello had 11 for that game. Surprisingly enough, Steve Rodriguez was not the leading scorer in that game.
Well, there was a reason, and Herman sort of alluded to it on his show. They played a boxing one on me from the first game. That was actually the second one, and the first one, which I'll talk about when we get to it. I did my thing, and so they boxed and won me, and Coach Valdez put me out at half court. And so I stood there and we played 4-on-4 the whole game. So I only scored like 7 points. I think it was all from the free throw line.
Yeah.
But Patterson saved us. Tomasello was great. And you hit it right on the head. I mean, I think they only had 4 losses all year. And
Yeah.
I'll describe a little more when we get to that on my list, because there was some really unique things, much like that Coach Valdez decision to play 4-on-4 and stick me out at half court. There's a lot of different coaching decisions that were really unique. That's a really good pick, because people forget, some of these teams that did not win districts still had pivotal moments in school history. So that was really good.
Yeah, and like I said, I put the two together. I mean, I think if you win 1 out of 2, I mean, it's great, but is it as great? Is it great enough to be in the top 10? I don't know, but you put both of them together. I mean, beating a powerhouse like that year 2 times by 2 points, And in one of the games, you had to come back from like 21 points down. So I'm sure you got a lot more to say about it. That's my number 7. I wanted to get it out there. We'll get back to it in a minute. I've got to throw my number 6 out there because you've already mentioned it, Steve.
Wait. You're next with number 6, but we got Kyle Connect joining us. Thank you, Kyle, for joining. We have about 6 people watching. Kyle says, Kyle is talking to Tree on Facebook and says, Tree, they're old guys. No respect for the 90s and 01 teams. And I just, if younger people had the patience that should come with aging.
We're not even halfway through the list, Steve.
Yeah, we're only at number 7. I almost want to remove a couple of those teams that I do have higher just to teach them a lesson. That's the Bayshore competitiveness coming out. Back to you.
Right. And what, in 1990-91 is not in the 90s? I mean, right. So anyway.
Well, wait. He transferred to Plant, so his education was incomplete.
Oh, right. Oh. Oh, Lordy. So you already mentioned this team. Your 7 is my 6. It's the 1990-91 games against, and I had it again as a duel between Broward Christian and then Fort Lauderdale Westminster. Both great wins on the road, travel all the way across the state to play, 2 of the top teams in the state in 1A. I really like these 2 games together because of the fact that Brian Peterson said on his show, this was kind of like his coming out party. This is when he realized that he could play with anyone, And so, I mean, how does the season go if we lose those games and Peterson doesn't have that same feeling or sense of accomplishment coming out of there, That's why I find these 2 games so important. That's why I combine them together. Beating Broward Christian and Fort Lauderdale Westminster on the road, with ruckus crowds, large schools, driving all the way across the state. I mean, everything into it. You mentioned most of the guys. One guy you didn't mention was Joe Place. Again, another great starter on the team. And we talked about it before, man. This team was phenomenal. All 5 starters averaged 10 or more points a game. I mean, come on. You don't get any better than that. So anyway, that's my number 6. Steve, what do you got for number 6?
Well, I just want to piggyback on that because I think that you're exactly right. I should have mentioned Joe Place. You're exactly right. We've got some good Joe Place video coming up in a few weeks once we get some of the video we got from Peterson digitized.
Yes.
So we'll get to see some Place highlights. And then, like you said, we talked about it, I think, in top 10 teams. I think we talked about it with Peterson himself. Those games are packaged together. You're right to package them because when Bayshore alumni talk about that era, that period of time, those 2 go together. It was a trip for Friday and Saturday night games. And Dalvin, on the Broward game that you mentioned, Dalvin Devine steals the ball and lays it up as time expires.
Yes.
For us to beat Broward, who was ranked 4th. So we were 5th. Broward was 4th. Westminster 2nd. Who beats back-to-back top 5 teams on the road in high school in your lifetime? It never happened. So you hit a really good one there. That was good.
Yeah, thank you. I thought so.
Yeah, and so my number 6. You mentioned this earlier, and they were packaged together because this season that we did this, 92, we won the unofficial city championship because we beat all of the city private teams. And to do that, we had to go to overtime in one of the games. You said maybe triple over. I don't remember what you said. But the game that I picked for this spot, my number 6, is 92, 79, 67 over Tampa Catholic. And you were kind enough to not tell the story because I always steal yours. We said it before. Coach Don DeZagua has his car stolen while the game was going on. So not only do Derek and Andrick and Showtime put a whooping on him, this was a highly ranked. I mean, this was a really good Tampa Catholic team. They were ranked.
Oh yeah. Let's not forget that. It's all the tomfoolery and funniness of the story. I mean, this was a great. Tampa Catholic was great from all the 80s and 90s.
Always great. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, go ahead.
That was it. Is that so? The I was not there, but from experience over 30 years of going to Bayshore games and playing in them, the parking lot clears out and it's dark and there's a couple of street lights that are on. You can see. And so he comes out. There's like there's less people. Maybe the Tampa Catholic van is there, and his car is like, where did it go? So that's really a great. I'm glad he found the car. Coach, thank you for telling us the story. I'm sure it wasn't funny then, but that's my number 6 again. Going back 10, 9, 8. What is the magnitude of the game? What is the importance of the game? How is the performance? I mean, 79 points, Showtime, Derek and Andrick. It was a great show. And again, a very important win because it helped secure the unofficial city title. So number 6, 79-67 over Tampa Catholic, 1992.
Yeah. And just remember, guys, we did get that story firsthand from the coach himself. Right. So no lies and half truths here. This is the honest to God, 100% truth. He did get his car stolen.
That's exactly right.
Oh. Anyway, so that's your number 6. Is that right?
Yep.
All right. Why don't you give us your number 5?
Number 5. Okay. So we didn't think this show would be as long tonight for obvious reasons. We don't have a guest, so we don't have a lot of stories and interviews. And we're at about 8:30, so we're right on time. But I got to tell the story. The reason the game is on my list. 1986-87. We've told the story so many times. And like we said at the beginning of the show, honorable mention, you could make a top 30 list out of 82 to 88 and wouldn't even have to add any other eras. We did, for those watching, add other years, but 1987, it wasn't beating Plant. It wasn't beating Robinson. It wasn't beating Jefferson. It was Berkeley Prep. Bayshore 37, Berkeley Prep 35 at Dimmitt Gymnasium on Berkeley Prep's campus. Why would that game be in the top 5? Well, it's lots of moving parts here. Tom Freilich, who we're going to have on for the Best of Bayshore Fans episode in a few weeks, he's got stories related. I'll save his for his night. This game was a bet between, first off, involving me. I'm in college, and me and Chris Patterson went to Mission Bell with a couple of buddies of mine from college. He came with us over Christmas or summer, I don't remember, and we met Iram Groff, who John Harville has spoke about. I played against him. He was at Berkeley Prep. He had graduated. Iram Groff is now a world-renowned doctor, or whatever he is, world-renowned surgeon. He had gone to Amherst. He was at Amherst, where he was Division III Player of the Year. He comes back, we're in Mission Bell Theater, and he says, he doesn't realize, I guess, so it had to be summer. He didn't realize Kelvin has transferred. So he's like, listen, we're going to get you guys this time, man. I'll bet you $20. I don't remember the amount. That was probably it. $20 that we finally get you guys. And we're like, we'll take that bet any day of the week. So Iram Groff bets you guys aren't going to beat Berkeley Prep, unknown to him that Kelvin Daniels is transferred. Then the game itself is Coach Herman Valdez's 100th victory at Bayshore Christian. Coach, of course, would end up with over almost 600 wins in his career. The dean of Hillsborough County coaches. He had won over, I guess, 300 at Robinson at the time, 250. This was his 100th at Bayshore in 1987. You guys didn't have a 1A loss yet. You were 16-1. Your only loss was to the Swedish national team over Christmas.
Right.
So you got the wager. You've got Coach Valdez's 100th game. You got Mike Blocker and you guys baking a cake for him for his 100th win. And if you guys don't get the win, the cake's going down the tubes. And because of the wager, I organized all of the students, and there's a picture in the yearbook. I think Connie Hodges is in the picture. Little John Blocker when he was like in 4th grade, 3rd grade. Joey Ruggieri, Heather Meyer. There's a whole slew of people that famously are at this game, and we're all in camouflage. And we took toilet paper to throw on the court for Herman's 100th win. So you've got the bet, you've got camouflage, you got the cake, you got the toilet paper, you got number 2 ranked Bayshore, your team. And then Berkeley 4 corners us to death, where we're actually behind
from the outset. They started 4 quarters from the very first play of the game.
I don't think we led, maybe once or twice, but until we're down to the final possession. Classic Coach Valdez Bayshore, call timeout underneath, run the box inbounds. I still argue that Patterson was more open than Kelvin, but be that as it may, the lob into Kelvin, catches in the air and lays it in for a 37-35 win over Berkeley Prep. We tossed the toilet paper onto the floor. Don't know if the cake survives or not. We learn later it does. And Coach Valdez gets his 100th win at Bayshore Christian. That was a tight one for what was the greatest team of all time. That is my number 5. Share your comments because you were there about that moment.
Obviously it was a great for all the reasons that you mentioned. Very stressful, strung out game. We come in there, like you said, we're 16-1, whipping everybody's tails. And basically come out. I think we win the tip. We go down, we miss a shot, and they go into 4 quarters immediately. Right. We're just standing. I guess probably 4 minutes went by in the first quarter before we realized, all right, well, we're actually going to have to go do something about this. And it was just one of those games, we'd get a steal and maybe score a bucket, but then they'd come back and score a bucket. They would keep it within 2 to 4 the whole night and even led a couple times 2 to 4 points, So it was like back and forth the whole night long. And finally, Freddie Tomasello with 1 second left in inbounds to Kelvin, and he just catches it in midair and puts it off the glass. And a sweet touch, wins it all. And just a great night. That's a great game. It's great number 5. It's not my number 5, but my number 5 is from the same year. And I guess the reason I picked this game is more of the importance and significance of the season and the program as a whole. While that's a great story to tell about the Berkeley game, obviously, and everything surrounding it.
Let me jump in before you go. It's because of that. It was the whole Bayshore story is wrapped into one game. So that's why I was on my list. I'm looking forward to yours.
Absolutely great game. We survived, thankfully. My game has a little more personal meaning to me. You already know where I'm going. It's in the district finals. We've already beaten this team 3 or 4 times in the regular season handedly, stomped them a few times. But we find ourselves in a dogfight in the district finals. It's a 3 overtime game. Same scenario at the end, an inbounds pass under the basket, again to Kelvin Daniels, catches in the air, kisses off the glass, and we win by 2, 56-54 in triple overtime. Wow. Now, obviously, the reason why this game is so important and significant to me, it was probably like my, quote, shining moment as a Bayshore Faith Warrior. Not that it's very extravagant, But, this was a very low scoring game. We were actually down by 9 going into the fourth quarter. We had to fight back to get that. And
you guys were down at halftime by double digits. When it was like
12.
Yeah, 12.
I think we were down by 12 at halftime. We're down by 9 going into the fourth quarter. We just whittled away. Again, guys, remember there's no 3-point line back then. So it's all pounded inside and grinded out type stuff. You're not making a 3 and 6 points is in 1 or 2 shots. So you really got to work for each bucket and each point. But yeah, anyway, we scored 9 points in the fourth quarter to make up that deficit. And yours truly, Chris Pate, had 3 points in that fourth quarter to save the season. Without those 3 points, there is no regional, sectionals, or Final Four or state finals for Bayshore in '87.
That's exactly right.
But no, seriously, guys, as far as like the significance of the season, obviously, if you go 31-2 or 31-3, you don't make it to the finals. How significant are you really? If you can't win in the clutch. Evangelo had a great player by the name of Greg Pike. I think he scored 24 points that game. I think he went on to play for what's that college over there in
Eckerd College.
Eckerd College. Yep, great player. But yeah, there's a lot of other things that happened. Obviously, than just my 3 points. Mike Blocker had a steal with 29 seconds left in the second overtime. He stole it from Greg Pike himself. So that's kind of afforded Evangelo's chance to win it. Just an overall, great game. Bayshore only had 5 players in the box score actually score points. So that means me having scored, one of the starters did not score. He will not be named today, Mike Blocker. But as I just mentioned, he did have the crucial steal in the second overtime. Had he not stolen that, and they had their best player with the ball in his hands, it could have very easily gone the other way. So yeah, all praise to Mike Blocker in all seriousness. But anyway, yeah, that's my number 5 triple overtime win, the district finals, 1987.
That was a great game, and like you said, I think Kelvin had 27 or 29 of our points.
Yeah, and
only 5 guys scored. Your 3 points were crucial. I remember that fourth quarter. Y'all were down going into the fourth quarter. Y'all blew out Lakeland Evangel 2 of the 3 times. The game at their place was a little bit closer because they were using that 4 corners a little bit, like seeing if it would work.
Right.
And back then, if that was the last of the Evangel era. But Greg Pike, before when I played and when Harville and them played, they had Jason Shin and Ed Ernest, who were 2 6'6" guys who played college basketball. And they graduated, and Greg Pike is left there. People forget Greg Pike was one of the best he was probably first or second team All-State. He was one of the best point guards in Florida, played at Eckerd College, like you said.
Yeah.
You guys were on the ropes. And it was the only time that I remember the crowd for the other team being louder, most of the night. So yeah, that's a great pick. Cause that was, there's so many great games.
Right. And it was at their gym,
That's right. So, they were the hosts. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's the one game that I will always remember in my high school career,
Well, so. I remember homecoming as being more important to me. Because we weren't going to score over 7. When homecoming was played, you guys had scored like over 85 points every game or something like that. And we only had 68. And you were in the game in the fourth quarter. And I'm almost positive Coach Valdez said, don't shoot and run the clock.
Yep.
You shot it anyways. It went in so we could get to 70. So that made me happy.
Oh yeah, we were out there. We were supposed to hold the ball until the clock ran out. I think I was actually the only person left on the court at the time I scored. Everyone else had already started walking toward the bench. But who should meet me 2 seconds after I make the bucket and says, "You saved homecoming. You saved homecoming." Steve Rodriguez. I'm like, what are you talking about? 70 sounds a lot better than 68.
Well, listen, that's exactly right. And again, we want to finish early tonight because we don't have a guest, but we need to talk about homecoming. I was there because I needed to pass my homecoming crown down.
Right.
There to give my crown. And it's sort of like the Trump Biden electoral vote count or whatever. You were supposed to win, and somehow it's Patterson. How did that happen?
Oh my gosh! Well, I'm telling you, man,
your brother had all of the middle school voting for you.
It was conspiracy for sure. Suffice it to say, my brother was a sophomore that year. He had all the freshmen and sophomores voting for me, so that's 50% of the school right there. Even if Chris Pate and I split the junior-senior vote, I still walk away with it in a landslide. For somehow, though, Chris Patterson ends up as prom king. Just happens to be the fact that his girlfriend was picked as prom queen.
Right.
And her father was in charge of the voting count.
I mean, that's not supposed to happen in a Christian school. That can't possibly happen. Tree White says voter fraud, laugh out loud. So he's with you. You got your election stolen.
Absolutely. Oh, even back then, man, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
How
funny.
Where are we at, man?
So are you?
That was my number 5. You did your 5. So who's up?
You're up with your number 4.
All right, number 4. I'm sure this one's on your list. I'm sure it's higher than what I have it. You have every reason to. I mean, it's just a pinnacle moment in the Bayshore program history. Probably if you were to go on a limb and say the greatest shot in Bayshore history, this is probably it.
Oh.
It's the 1994-95 Bayshore Faith Warriors against Braden and Christian, 59-56 win in sectionals to go on to the Final Four. It's affectionately known as the Miracle at Randy, and everybody's seen it now on our Facebook page. Bo Heinley hits the off-balance, most unathletic shot looking possible to kiss it off the glass and win it. That team had guys.
That's number 4?
Number 4, yeah, number 4.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, Steve, I thought hard and long about this one, and I wanted to put it higher, and I really considered it, and I could have put it in a little bit higher, but some of the other ones to me just had more overall program significance, in the terms of history of the program. And honestly, this team was a dog that should have been put down. They should not even have been in the situation they were in.
Hold on. Jed Kirby, Damon, John Blocker. I do not share the opinions of my co-host.
Scott Crone.
I do not believe.
John Fielder.
I do not believe that y'all are dogs that should be put down.
Of course, the ever immortal Bo Heinley.
Bo, please. Bo gets us the lost videotape. It's been missing for 25 years, and you say his team is a dog that should be put down.
As a whole, as the season should have been put down, not the players themselves.
All right.
All right. I mean, they were 17-18 coming into this game. How they even got that far, I have no idea. If you watch the game, the other team, to me, looked like they were better, overall. They were certainly just as talented.
Tree says that's cold.
Huh?
Tree says that's cold. Cold. I agree. It is. It is. It's a little cold, but they're the top 5, man. They're our number 4. Again, if you were to go out and look for the greatest shot ever in Bayshore history, this may be it. But because of the fact that they got to the Final Four, even as a 500 team. But overall, the significance to the program itself, I don't know. It could be debated. Damon was on that team as a young guy, so we can talk about him in '96 and '97. How they underperformed. That's a whole different show, another topic. But in terms of the game itself standing out in program history, I've got it number 4. I think that's a pretty good spot for it. Okay, I've got it in a different spot, so I'll save my comments.
All right.
So we're doing number 4?
Yep, feature number 4.
This is where you get to roll your eyes back at me. 19, and first off, we'll relist them right before we list our number 1. We'll go through all our list. And again, whoever's watching, and people may not watch it right now live, but they'll watch it on YouTube, or they'll tell their friends, and we have a lot of people shockingly, watching this.
Hey, Coach Fenlon.
Right. So, but if you're a Bayshore parent now, or you're thinking about it, you have to ask yourself, what school engenders so much love that two old people in different parts of the country take the time during Thursday night football to record a podcast over top 10 high school games from the last 40 years. So that should tell you the importance of this place. But my number four, the original gangsters.
Yes.
1984-85 season, number one ranked Bayshore Christian. 84, number one ranked Class 4A Plant City. 73 at Plant City. This game has been talked about in multiple episodes. Don't want to rehash all of it. We talked with John Harville a couple of weeks ago, and John had some really good insight. Harville had 21. John J.D. Edwards, Mount Rushmore, had 21. Bernard Staley had 17 points, 15 rebounds, and probably multiple block shots. It wasn't reported in the newspaper.
Yeah, right. I think they reported 4. He probably had like 8.
Right. So, I mean, it's very hard to explain to people. Basketball is different today. Travel basketball in AAU during the summer carries a significant amount of weight, if not more weight, than high school sports, unfortunately, because I think that the school should matter when you play sports. Where kids go to school, back then you had private or public, you didn't have charter schools, you didn't have basketball factories like Oak Hill existed, but like in Florida, Montverde, or all the schools, Oldsmar became a basketball factory. I obviously am aware of the Florida Prep factory. So you have all these factories. If you look through the scores of the games like you and I have on Max Preps, Bayshore is either winning like 80-16 or they're losing to a public school 55-30. Like there's no middle class. And so what's very interesting is that the private schools that do play public schools today, it's because they got players. They got a good coach and they got players. And that's great. Back when we played in the 80s, there never was a 1A versus 4A game. There wasn't a Christmas tournament where private schools went to and got to play public schools. Right. A little bit in baseball, but Jesuit and Tampa Catholic was almost treated differently. The Catholics were considered like public school guys, so they were treated differently. You didn't have Temple Heights often in the Saladino in baseball. Sometimes Berkeley Prep in the late 80s, not the early 80s.
Yeah.
In basketball, it never happened. And in the second year in a row, Herman takes on Plant City, and the original gangsters beat the crap out of Plant City High School, ranked number 1 in 4A. Now, I know what you're going to say. This will be the last thing. I mean, why isn't it higher? Well, here's the dilemma. I actually don't think we were the underdog. It's hard for me to, like, it really wasn't an upset. The original gangsters, Herman's first team, were super studs that humiliated everything in their path. So I could not rank it higher simply because I expected them to win the game. So, but it doesn't get any bigger. It had never happened before in Tampa that a 1A played a 4A and the 1A won.
Yeah.
And won it convincingly. So
right.
Number 4, 84-85, the OGs, 84, Plant City 73 at Plant City. What say you?
Well, I can't disparage you, Steve, because that's my number 3. So you just basically explained it all. I'm just going to kind of rehash just a little bit of it. Slight correction: Plant City wasn't number 1 at the time. They were number 8, but still top 10 in the state of Florida. We had taken Plant City to task the year before and just not pulled it out. This is in Plant City. Is this in Plant City's gym again?
Yeah, that was at Plant City. Yeah. Yeah.
So you drive all the way out from South Tampa now, and Plant City in the early 80s is, nothing but, dirt roads almost, You got one main road that the old Plant City High School is sitting on. This is the Plant City that took Tony Mack, Dwayne Shintzes and company from Brandon, who went to 2 Final Fours in a row, to task. I think they even beat Brandon one time that year. So, I mean, we're talking about an elite program. Plant City had just been in the Final Four 2 or 3 years before in '82 with Broadnecks.
They won it, Broadnecks.
Yeah. So that was what, '82, I think?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're talking about a team that had a lot of tradition, a lot of history, and always with the power in the Western Conference in Hillsborough County. And this little old school from, South McDill, comes all the way out to the hills and whips you on your own court. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that, And like you said, I mean, Harville and Edwards, I mean, those guys, Edwards was phenomenal every night. But I think it's got to be said that John Harville played his best ball on the biggest stage.
Right.
No doubt about it. He scored 26 against Beasley the season before. He scores 21 this night. And I think the biggest difference between '84, not beating them in '84 and '85, we beat them in '85 is because we have a true big man in Bernard Staley. Can't be understated how important Bernard Staley was to this team. If Bernard Staley doesn't transfer after his junior year and stays for his senior year, that's a whole nother topic again, though. But hey, '86 is no longer just, another season. It's probably a district regional sectional champion. But anyway, yeah. So that's my number 3 is the '84-'85 win over Plant City High School. Phenomenal. And another thing too is it's like you said, first time in it's the biggest game and first big game in the school's history. Never before had we ever played anyone of that caliber and beaten them. So all these other wins we have against public schools from 1985 forward all fall back to this particular win.
Right.
So yeah, that's my number 3, man. I can't disagree at all.
That's right. Very good.
Great pick.
So are you up?
Yeah. So there's a few left, and I think so we've got what, 2 left on each one.
Well, wait a minute. So that was your number 3. I think I haven't done my number 3.
Yeah. So what's your number 3?
Right. So my number 3 you mentioned as a package. It goes to '85-'86, and again, there's so many great games. I look at some of the games Daniel Martinez and TJ Miller put together in the 2000s. They're spectacular performances. The reason this game gets the love, and we feel like we're really unbiased. We go to great lengths to put together data. You and I are talking all day today, trying to find a game that from the Dean Kagi era that would work.
Yeah.
The reason this game works, we don't have to say it. Just watch Coach Valdez's podcast. He's of all the games, he talks about Hillsborough Robinson, talks about the 2 Final Fours with Robinson. He talks about Daryl Dawkins. And when he gets to Bayshore, there's a little bit of Derek and Andrick. There's a little bit of '87. There's a little bit of Edwards and Arville. And then there's this game, these 2 games. And so that's why my number 3 is '85-'86, Bayshore 69 number. I don't have the newspaper. I should have the newspaper clipping in my garage, but it's number 4 or 5, Central Florida Academy 67. 69.
Yeah, I think 4. I think they were 4. Yeah, I think they were 4. Yeah.
And and thank you, because again, I steal all your stuff, so thank you for letting me share this.
Oh, that's your story.
Central Florida Academy wasn't just some 1A ranked team. They were 6'9", 6'7", 6'7", and their starting swing guard was a 6'2" guard that went to Auburn University by the name of Johnny Benjamin. Now, granted, he did get in a little drug habit problem, but he had a Division I scholarship and attended and played at Auburn University. That was Central Florida Academy. And what makes this game so great, you already told it a little bit about it. Number 1, the trip over to Orlando. We're riding in the Valdez Mobile. Everybody's got their Walkmans on. I don't even think I had a cassette player. Mine was just a little radio. And we get out of the Valdez Mobile and go into the gym, and a guy is sweeping the floor. And this guy is pretty big, tall, and we think it's an actual janitor, a grown man. No, it's one of the players. And he's laughing at us. The crowd is giggling. You can hear them start to murmur amongst themselves as we walk in. We're playing those short white kids. I mean, so it's embarrassing. We're not embarrassed because we know we're ready to fight anybody. We fall behind at halftime, 41-24. Johnny Benjamin has 3 breakaway first half dunks. In the second half, we're down 17. Valdez is calm at halftime, just says we're going to do our stuff. don't worry about it. We'll make our plays and we'll make our move when we can. We go out, start second half. They score 8-4 to start second half. They're up 21. It's 49-28. And every single one of us, if you ask us right then, would say, this game's over. Let's back it up and go home. Valdez spreads the floor 4 corners, and he's exactly right. Coach was exactly right. They break into a man-to-man, and we're able to backdoor cut them. It's not that we were more athletic. We were not. It's not that we were bigger. We certainly were not. It's that we would dribble, drive, gap, jump stop, ball fake one way, bounce past the other, backdoor layup, foul and one. And we came back and came back and came back. And eventually that 4-corner spread by Coach led to us getting a 69-67 win. I think Chris Patterson in that game as well hit the 2 free throws to win it. I was fortunate enough. I had over 20. Freddie had 20 and Chris had 17. And that was usually, if we were going to win, that's what we had to have, because we didn't have any size. So we had to produce those type of numbers. But that game afterwards, Scotty Burkett comes in from the newspaper. Everybody asked, did y'all think you had a chance? And we all said, we just thought Coach was playing 4 corners so it wouldn't get worse. And the other team brings in Cokes and snacks, and the coach gave us a clap for us. They'd never played anyone that played as hard. Normally everybody gives up. And that was the Bayshore way back then. That was Coach Valdez. That was you, like your team. That's how we all played. We never gave up. And so that's why this game is so high. There is no game like it actually in Bayshore history, because we usually have the players to beat public schools. We're usually the favorite. We were not the favorite. We didn't match up in any position. We were down 21 without a 3-point line, but the Faith Warriors came back and won. So that's my number 3, because it was one of the great games.
Yeah, bravo. Yeah, absolutely. And it did Central Academy, then they only lost 2 of the games that year, right? If I'm not mistaken, yeah.
That's right. They lost twice to us, like you said. They beat us 55-53 or we beat them 55-53 at Bayshore. They then lost to Orlando Jones, which, by the way, is where Johnny Benjamin would transfer from Central Florida Academy to Jones the next year and lead them to the state title. Then he would transfer back to Central Florida Academy for his senior year.
Yeah.
So,
and real quick, Steve, for people who don't know, Orlando Jones at the time was one of the biggest public high schools in the state of Florida, if not the entire southeastern United States.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And just in conclusion, so Jones twice to us, and then they lost in the regional final to the eventual state champion Grand Ridge, who would beat Hawthorne, who then you guys would play the next year in the state title game.
Right.
So that's my number 3. Yeah.
Yeah. Great pick. All right. So we're to number 2. You want to go first? Or you want me to go first? You got a feeling it might be the same.
Yeah, whichever you want to do. First off, let's take a look at Facebook and see, can we tell if Connect is on? I can't really tell. So we'll go ahead and go. You go ahead and take the lead.
All right. So my number 2 was a seminal moment in the program history.
Without question.
When this game happens, the program is in a position to go one of 2 ways. Obviously, either continue on as the program that it has been for the first 20 years, or go by the wayside. In 95, we had that miracle of Raymino that got us into the Final Four, even though, like I said, we probably shouldn't have been there. 96 underachieved, 97, in my opinion, underachieved. 98, we had the great Elijah Piazza debacle. So another underachieving moment. 99, let's be honest, they were good. They just weren't that great. And the same with 2000, So those are good teams, but not great teams, and nothing really to speak, right home about. Along comes 2000, 2001. We're up against our longtime rivals who have now grown into this gigantic 3A school. We used to beat them, like redheaded stepchildren back in the early 80s. Now all of a sudden they're a huge 3A school. They won.
Wait, if there are any alumni out there that are redheaded and that is, we don't mean, we're just being funny. Sorry. I apologize.
It's just a turn of phrase, guys. Just turn of phrase. Anyway, so we're going up against one of our rivals of all time, who has won the last 7 championships, Bay Conference championships in a row. The game is being played at Tampa Prep. The Bay Conference Championship is going to return home after 7 years. We've got Kyle Connect, Jared Piazza, Brandon Harrison, Joe Rollins, and Sam Smith bringing it back, 88-79 over Tampa Prep, 2000-2001 season. That's my number 2. Again, one of those great games where we were down by, we were down by a lot in the fourth quarter, came back, outscored them like 31-14 in the fourth quarter. And again, like I said, really a seminal moment in the program history. It's the end of the first 2 decades, basically. And we've got 2 decades to go forward now from there to here. And it was truly saved the empire, I think. Truly seminal moment in the program history.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, I have the same game and completely agree. First off, Kyle Connect says he's still here on Facebook. Kyle Connect was a stud. Kyle Connect was big time. And what's the travesty of the Dibble Renaissance era is that those guys didn't get Division I looks because they were all Division I players. You had Joseph Rollins, you had Brandon Harrison. These are all Division I guys. You had Jared Piazza. Who else? Sam Smith.
Smith.
I think we had Missy Cabot's little brother.
John Michael Cabot. Yeah, absolutely. Great role player.
Yeah. So that era, those 3 years were good to great. That was the crowning achievement. That team made the Final Four. Like you said, they brought the banner back to Ramey Arena after being gone for 7 years. And to be honest, schools play for their district title. That's your group of schools that are roughly the same size in the same geographic region. So Bayshore is unique. We're an empire. We play for Final Fours and that's it. But in general, you play for a district title. The Bay Conference, it's hard to measure because like you said, Tampa Prep had grown into a giant 3A school. We were still a 1A school and remain 1A, 2A in terms of population. So Bay Conference, it's hard to measure as time went on from the 80s to the 90s, 2000s, but that made it even better. We were down double digits. I think we were down 8 going into the fourth quarter. Connect and Rollins, Piazza, Harrison put them on it, beat them by 17 in that fourth quarter. We ended up winning by 9. What a tremendous victory in school history. To me, I share with you, it is the number 2 greatest Bayshore game of all time. And before my last point will be, the next 20 years go by, and now we've got the Broderick Day era. And he's a Mount Rushmore of coaches as far as I'm concerned, because he's been great the last few years, and he's got D1 guys. Look at Bayshore since the Empire started in 1982. 38 seasons of varsity basketball, 33 of them have winning records, probably 18 or more district titles. It's not comparable anywhere else, folks. It's simply, there's nothing equivalent to Bayshore Christian. So 33 winning seasons out of 38 years. It's been great, but beating Tampa Prep in their gym with Division I guys on their team after we had not beaten them in like 7 years, or we had not won the Bay Conference title in 7 years, that is one of the greatest games of all time. Bravo to Connect and all of the very young people that were in they were in their their swaddling clothes and their diapers because they were so young. But they were great at basketball, so I'm very grateful for that. That was a great win and number 2 on my list.
Yeah, number 2 on my list as well. And just to recap, Joe Rollins had 25 points. Kyle Connect and Brandon Harrison each had 20 apiece. So those 3 guys carried the load. I'm sure out of those 65 points, Jared Piazza probably had about 15 assists.
Yeah,
because that's what he did, man. He dished it. And played defense. I mean, that's one thing I really liked about this team, and is the fact that, and Kyle even mentioned it, like everybody on the team could play almost every position,
right?
Which I mean, in today's type ball, and you mentioned this to me actually earlier today in our conversations. I mean, it's positionless basketball nowadays. Because we were talking about big men and so forth, and this team, in every true sense of the word, actually used the positionless type of basketball to a T. They made it work as well as you could possibly make it work. So, great team. Great season and great, fantastic game number 2.
Yeah, and I want to say one more thing about that because Connect sent us some video, and we really need more video. We could celebrate Connect's team more if he sent us more video. But the video that he sent has Joe, Coach Finland, and Coach. If you're watching, we can't wait to have you on the show to hear some old Herman Valdez stories. But you can watch Finland walking up and down that sideline. He wasn't too happy as we were rolling to that victory. And I imagine not, especially in his home gym. Second greatest game of all time, as far as I'm concerned. Great job, guys, for keeping the legacy going.
Yeah, phenomenal. So we're at number 1, Steve. So do you want to count down the top 10 or 9 that we have so far?
Yeah, real quick, I want to say, Tree, I'm sorry I once again did not get a 93-94 game on there. You were 6'10", Fielder 6'7". Our point guard shot threes and he was 6'6". Not a lot of shocking victories in my book.
Right.
So nothing was surprising there. But real quick, my number 10 was the 1980-81 upset of Lakeland Christian, 48-47. My number 9 was Dwayne Pippen, 56-53, 2008 district title. My number 8 was last year's regional final to go to the Final Four, 50-48 over First Baptist. My number 7, down in Fort Lauderdale, Westminster, PD gets it done in 90-91. My number 6, Tampa Catholic at home, solidifying the city championship for us. My number 5, Berkeley Prep, 1987, the buzzer beater with Kelvin Daniels and the lob and all the fans' involvement. Number 4 was 84-85, the victory over Plant City, which was a shocking to even play the game and shocking to win it. Number 3, 85-86, the 21-point comeback against number 4 ranked Central Florida Academy. Number 2, we just mentioned, my number 2, the 2001 Bay Conference Championship victory over Tampa Prep. Really, just that could easily be number 1. All of them could be. That was one of the greatest. That's my number 10 through number 2. What do you have?
All right.
Wait. Tree says no love. Laugh out loud. Tree, we love you. We love you. You're so good. Y'all didn't. Nothing was even close. Anyways.
Yeah. Oh man. So I didn't have 10. I had 9. But again, someone had multiple games. My number 9 was the City of Tampa championship over Jesuit, Tampa Catholic, and Tampa Prep. My number 8 was the 2019-2020 sectional, regional, whatever they call it now, win on the road versus First Baptist, led by C.J. Cruz and Deion Brown. My number 7 was the 1985-86 Central Florida Academy Classics, 2 two-point wins against one of the top 5 teams in the state of Florida. My number 6 was, again, basically the Brian Peterson coming out party down there in Fort Lauderdale with 2 two-point wins against Broward Christian and Fort Lauderdale Westminster, who were both ranked at the time. 85. My number 5 is the 87 win against Lakeland Evangel in triple overtime to win the district championship, led by Christian Pate, 3 points in the fourth quarter. My number 4, of course, I'm just going to say it's the Miracle at Ramey. Everybody knows what I'm talking about by now. My number 3 was the 84-85 win against Plant City on the road. Plant City was the number 8 in the state at the time in 4A. And again, just huge games from J.D. Edwards, John Harbaugh, and Bernard Staley to pull off the magnificent victory and the first of many to come, victories over 4A, 5A, 6A public schools. Number 2 is, of course, the Bay Conference Championship by the 2000-2001 team, Bayshore over Tampa Prep, 88-79. Come back by, I think they're down by 8 going into the fourth quarter, or at least late in the third. Outscored Tampa Prep 31-14 on the road. Think about that for a moment. 31 freaking points in the fourth quarter. Talk about putting your foot down and getting it done. Thank you, Brandon Harrison. Thank you, Jared. Thank you, Kyle. Thank you, Joe Rollins. Thank you, Sam Smith. Thank you, John Michael Cabot. Thank you, all you guys. Phenomenal win for number 2. Number 1. So you haven't mentioned this. I can't believe that you have anything else other than what I have, but let's go ahead and do it, man. Do you want me to go first or do you want to go first?
Well, I want you to go first because I have no idea what it could be.
Really? All right. So for me, and the reason this is number one is because it's so early in our history under the Empire that without this win, and I have it as a double, but really it's a single game, but I kind of included two just because there is some historical value to one of the two games. But basically, my number one is the the sectional final championship win over Shorecrest, who's ranked number 4 at the time. We win 60-47. We're underdogs. We've already lost to Shorecrest 2 times in a row. This is the 83-84 season. The first time we ever go to the Final Four. I included the Frostproof District Championship win, 50-52. We had to rally from 9 points down in that game with 5:25 left in the fourth quarter. We were led by Kenny Cox with 20 points. Of course, you had JD, John Harville, Santiago, Kenny Cox all doing their thing. But I mean, the significance of this is immeasurable. It's our first district title ever. So without this district title, who says any of the others come later? The Shorecrest game again is against a team that's ranked higher than us at the time, that's beaten us twice that year. Our first sectional final. It sends us to our first Final Four ever in history.
I gotta interrupt. Remember, we had one game after Shorecrest. It was we played West Palm Beach Kings Academy at home.
Right. Okay. But so regional final.
That doesn't diminish because I had that game pretty high as well.
Yeah. So regional final nonetheless. And for me, just knowing the history of who I am, who you are, who these guys are to us, basically, if this season doesn't happen, if Bayshore doesn't go to the Final Four, I don't believe that Steve Rodriguez ever ends up at Bayshore Christian School. And people don't even realize the impact that has on this school and the history of this school. If Steve Rodriguez does not go to Bayshore Christian School, then Freddie Tomasello doesn't go to Bayshore Christian School. Okay? There's a landslide from there. There's no wins against Central Florida Academy in '86. There's no winning season that year probably because the team was depleted by graduation. Without those big wins without those signature wins in '86, Kelvin Daniels, Jeff Cook, Kevin Daniels, Donnie Hamlin, not much of a player, but Chris Pate, none of these guys show up in '86, '87, to build, which is probably, in my mind, the greatest team ever in Bayshore history. If '87 doesn't go to the state finals, I mean, it just goes on and on and on. Robbie Faedo doesn't transfer in '88 from Tampa Catholic, where he was rejected to be a starter and honorable mention all county at the least. Why would he leave Tampa Catholic, who's in their prime in the mid '80s, late '80s, to come to Bayshore? Only because we went to the state finals year before. It just goes on and on and on and on. So that's why this game is so significant to me, because without this game, the rest is history. So there you go. Shorecrest Prep, 60-47 regional win against the team that had already beat us twice in the regular season.
I think that's a wonderful pick. I think combining it with the Frostproof win, there's so many games because combining it with Frostproof, like you said, we heard from Edwards and Arville, we were losing going into the fourth quarter. I didn't even realize that until years later. I think it went to overtime.
Yeah.
Like you said. And then, of course, Shorecrest, we had no business winning that game. They had beaten Sarasota Booker, the defending state champion, the week before. So a lot of people think they were looking ahead and overlooking us because they already beaten us twice, like you said. So, and then, of course, if there's no those things don't happen, do I end up at Bayshore? I don't know. But I know that if I don't go, there's no Freddie, no you, no Kelvin, no Jimmy Carter, no Hamilton brothers. 30 or 40 students that don't even play basketball probably don't come from Brandon to enroll at Bayshore. I mean, it just changed everything. So that's a really good pick. That Shorecrest game, that shocked me. I'm surprised, but I totally agree. It could easily be number one on anybody's list because it was such an important game. So you're exactly right.
Well, it's number one on my list.
Absolutely. And a great list. My number one, it can be quick. We've talked about it. We've promoted it. We put the video on the Facebook page 400 times. It is the Miracle at Ramey. Blocker, Crone, Kirby, Damon, Josh Nunley, of course, Bo Heinley, who hit the shot. To me, it doesn't get any bigger because, like you were just describing the Shortgrass game, this was to go to the Final Four for a team that, as you described, should have been put out to rest. I mean, it had no business making that Final Four run, and yet, just like anything else in Bayshore history, the guys got it done, like they always did.
Yeah.
And, it was just a wonderful feeling, and it was very important because it was the third in a row. I don't know, unless you go down to Miami, there's very few Tampa teams with 3 Final Fours in a row.
Yeah.
So, like you said, I know that we differ on 96 and 97 as to whether or not they underperformed because they did have a lot of losses. I thought those were 2 really good teams. But 95 had no business being there, and yet Bo Heinley shot at the buzzer, 1995, 59-56 over Braden and Christian. That is my number 1 game, and that is my top 10 list.
Very good. Outstanding. Can't argue with that for sure. Like I said, it was the greatest shot probably in Bayshore history. So stands to reason that game would be up there very close to the top. Right. So that's it. That's all I got. Steve, what you got anything else left for the guys out there?
Yeah, I love you, Tree. Always love Tree. Kyle, send me video, but I love you too. Kyle's got a great video with Coach Dibble in a yellow jacket. I mean, I literally laughed out loud looking at it. We said we're only going to go an hour, and here we are once again, an hour and a half. But these kids that are now grown men that played these games deserve for us to remember them and talk about them, because those were great moments in their history and in our alma mater's history. That's all I got.
All right, great. So I think we're off next week. We might have a special video. I'll get you guys updated, posted on that. Still kind of in the works, but if it happens, we'll let you know for sure. Everybody have a great and happy Thanksgiving and awesome holidays. Yeah, I just love all you guys. And remember to support this year's team. Absolutely. If you live in the Tampa Bay area, listen, you have no excuse not to go to a game unless that excuse is COVID and they're not letting people in. Otherwise, you better beat the darn game, brother.
It's showtime. It's showtime. You know, it's the redux of showtime. The
showtime part due, baby. Yeah, Steve plans on being in a couple games this year. I'm sure he's going to make a couple games. If I can make a couple games from 2,500 miles away in Colorado, you can make a couple games. So let's go, Bayshore Faith Warriors. You guys have a great night. Post your top 10 on the Facebook page, and we'll see you. Have a great night.
We'll see you.